Scelidosaurus, which means limb lizard, was a genus of armored ornithischian dinosaurs that lived during the early Jurassic period in Europe. It was a medium-sized animal, measuring 4 meters in length. Scelidosaurus was the oldest known ornithischian dinosaur until the discovery of Heterodontosaurus in the 1960s. Fossil remains of this dinosaur were discovered in 1859 in rocks in Charmouth in southern England that date to the early Jurassic period. The fossils were described and given its scientific name by Sir Richard Owen in 1861. A partial skeleton was also discovered in the 1950s, as well as some fragments in 1980 and 1985. Scelidosaurus was an early member of the thyreophoran lineage. This was a subgroup of the ornithischian family. Scelidosaurids were the earliest members of the thyreophoran group. The earliest members such as Scelidosaurus and Scutellosauros were smaller and more lightly armored compared to their later relatives. Scelidosaurids may have evolved from more ornithopod-like ancestors, similar to Lasutosaurus. These animals were primarily bipedal, but as thyreophorans evolved heavier armor, they evolved into quadrupeds. Scelidosaurus had many features that resembled basal ornithischians, including the shape of its feet, legs and tail. It also had a longer neck compared to later thyreophorans. However, its teeth and skull were more similar to Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs, and its hips were similar to its relative Scutellosauros. Scelidosaurus was once thought to have been more closely related to Stegosaurs, but it is now thought to have been closer to Ankylosaurs. Scelidosaurus had many bony plates embedded in its skin across the back and on the sides, which is reminiscent of Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs. The plates did not form high, thin plates like in Stegosaurs, but more like those of Ankylosaurid species. Thin impressions of Scelidosaurus also show that the skin had a mosaic of small, round scales, which resemble those of lizards such as the Gila monster. Scelidosaurus had a broader and shorter skull than Stegosaurus, and it was less armored than those of Ankylosaurs. However, there is evidence of extra bony tissue which was welded on to the surface of the skull and the sides of the lower jaw. The teeth of Scelidosaurus were simple and leaf-shaped. They extended right down towards the tip of the snout, which indicates that it had a very small beak. Scelidosaurus had a robust skeleton, pillar-like back legs, and broad 4-toed feet. The shape of its front legs is uncertain as these bones have not been discovered. Its upper arm bones were heavy, suggesting that this dinosaur was a quadruped instead of a biped. However, it still had a long tail that may have counterbalanced the front half of the body. Most of the body weight was thus carried by the back legs, and Scelidosaurus may still have been capable of running for short distances on its hind legs. Scelidosaurus is thought to have been a slow-moving plant eater, which relied on its body armor as protection from predators. It is thought to have inhabited a forested environment, where it would have sheared off low-growing soft-leaf plants or juicy fruits with its small beak. Scelidosaurus had simpler jaws and teeth compared to later types of ornithischians, which indicates it would have chewed with a simple up and down motion. Juvenile Scelidosaurs may have supplemented the diet with insects. Fossil remains of Scelidosaurus have been preserved in marine sediments, which led to speculations that it may have partially lived in water. However, it is more likely that these dinosaurs lived on riverbanks. They may have occasionally drowned during flood times.